the confidence in the institutions that have anchored us is in decline. Nowhere is this more evident than in the lack of faith in politics and politicians, except perhaps the lack of credibility in our mainstream media. Quality, impartial journalism has been replaced by the pretense of objectivity whilst they're pursuing personal advocacy. Rag-nag gossip now masquerades as news, and news is just a journalist shaping facts to suit their opinion. Now, of course, opinion is great in the public domain, and this network makes it very clear where the news ends and the opinion begins. But that isn't true of the rest of the Australian media. For example, the thinking person recognises that their ABC runs a PC assortment of left-wing identity politics and climate change apocalypse all day, every day. It isn't news as much as a tool of leftist subversion. They present the topics they want to in a slanted manner while virtually deplatforming any opposing point of view. And it's not much better on the commercial networks. News is now presented by celebrities who conform to the PC zeitgeist, lest they be deplatformed and forced to rely on some actual skill to make a living. Now, like us all, of course they can have an opinion and they can share it in any manner available. But let's not pretend it is credible news reporting. We might as well be told by what to think by someone from the Adelaide Fringe or one of the fools from a reality TV show. Oh dear, that's actually what is happening. Even worse, the trained journalist often uses the opinions from these vacuous hypocrites to justify creating a clickbait headline news story. It's as if they think the Twitter rant from a half-cut Insta whatever is the basis of mainstream media coverage. But only as long as it suits their agenda. Australians deserve better. Our journalists used to filter out the noise and deliver the facts. Now they choose the facts that suit the noise they want to make. Well, Antoinette, as an esteemed journalist, I'm sure you've got something to contribute to this discussion.
And the attacks just kept coming. You know, I've worked in both public broadcasting and commercial media and watch reality television.
We'll just leave you two.
We'll duke it out.
I have to agree with some points, and that would be, I would say that our craft is under attack, and that over the past 10 years, the media has faced unprecedented change. Social media, the internet, the fact that newspapers by and large don't exist anymore. The very business model for journalists or for journalism doesn't exist, and good journalism takes time and it costs money. Investigations take time and they cost money, and unfortunately in a digital age where Facebook and Google get combined about $77 out of the every $100 spent in online advertising, and they're not producing any content, that means media outlets don't have that funding to invest in good journalism. And I think structurally that is the problem that we're dealing with. At the same time, you mentioned the ABC, and the truth of the matter is the ABC has been cleared twice of 2 independent investigations of bias. They've been cleared twice, and they are so important as the fourth estate. Particularly, look at the bushfire emergency. They spent an additional $3 million responding, and absolutely rightly so responding.
Let's not confuse the role that the ABC has in important things as a national broadcaster.
And they're doing important news there.
Overwhelmingly, they are pushing an agenda. Who are the conservative commentators on the ABC?
They often, I'll answer that if I don't mind. So they're often invited, and they have on Q&A and the Drum, they have not quota systems but targets in which, 2 seats need to be filled by conservative people. I've worked with producers on that show. I know those programs quite well. But I'm going to go back to another point.
Inviting a lamb to a barbecue.
Can I just...
The Drum deplatforms conservatives. That has certainly never been refuted. The accusation Gerard Henderson has made that they have made a decision consciously that no one from the IPA will ever appear on it. Now, am I wrong?
And someone from the IPA was on there quite recently.
What the ABC does, and I've seen this too on a show on your network, is they'll get a gang of panellists to then invite someone on, and the whole intention of it is to gang up on them and beat them up.
Look, arguably this network can do the same in the other political direction, and so let's move away from panel programs and talk about news
And I'm with you on that. I think
let's talk about news and separate news and opinion.
When was the last ABC News you watched you didn't have something about gender transition, the rainbow movement, climate change? What other PC things are going on? That's what fills the news bulletin now.
The problem here is that bias is in the eye of the beholder, and so all of the arguments that you are making about the ABC is what people that tend to sit on the left of politics say about organisations such as the one I work for, which is News Corp Australia.
This is a publicly funded organisation with a charter that says it's to deliver.
100%, yes, the ABC is taxpayer funded and there should be greater accountability there, particularly about resourcing. So, for instance, exactly as Antoinette already said, that the media is one of the most disrupted industries of the last decade, and the government should really be assisting the media rather than just criticising it every time they get headlines they don't like. We saw AAP shut down the other day. If that was any other industry like auto, for instance, we'd be talking about how do we assist. Well, people from News Corp Australia have come out and said, we can tell you how to assist. It's the tech giants. It's about helping regulate people like Facebook and Google, those organisations who, as Antoinette said, don't generate content. They're just taking our content
I asked this question
profiting off
I asked this question, right? So there is a difficulty with pursuing quality journalism because of time pressures and I guess
resource constraints.
Resource constraints as well. But what about, I mean, society itself? We just want to consume opinion that we like now. Well, and so we turn off anything that we don't like.
And social media algorithms actually play into that. It's an echo chamber. They know that you click on certain articles, be it about veganism or climate change or whatever it is, and then they just keep fueling that and you just keep seeing it. And so you're so much more closed-minded.
That's right.
But if we look even more broadly than the business structure and, you know, perceived bias of certain organisations, let's look at the laws. Australian, in the past 20 years, anti-terror laws have often worked against journalists being able to tell stories because they're at risk of either their whistleblowers being imprisoned. We've got some of the most strict defamation laws in all of the Western world. So we could either be defamed, have our source imprisoned, have a raid on our home because we're doing a story about the government. So it actually makes our job legally, even makes our job even harder. We don't even have freedom of the press enshrined in law. It's implied in law, but not enshrined in law. So look at the business model, look at the laws. It's a tough time to be a journalist. It's a tough time to have a successful business model as a media operator.
How do you then explain, and I'm quite genuine about it, the confidence in politics and politicians is pretty low. Yeah. It's the same in the media all around the world. People don't trust what they've been presented, and if you've looked at US elections, you'll see there's 3 networks cheerleading for one candidate and there's one or two for another.
Yes.
I think we're seeing the same thing here in Australia.
And your point about
you just got to question, what am I being told? How credible is it? Or is it just someone's making a story around what they want to see happen?
And the point about the conduct of Google and Facebook is just execrable, and it's killing reputable journalism, and hence you're getting a situation in newsrooms now where people do run tweets as part of the story because it's readily available content. You can get some famous names and throw them into the body of the story and report the outline. But
from who?
And I think that's really problematic.
It is.
And in the organisation and the magazine that I edit, we don't do that. So I'm like, any person can go on and say so-and-so said something on Twitter. That's not genuine reporting.
But having said that, there's a systemic problem at the ABC. They fired me, so I'm bitter and twisted about it and haven't forgiven them. So I put my bias up front. But no one runs the darn thing. I had the MD come down and tell me what a lovely person I was and how indispensable I was as a voice on the ABC. Did he reinstate me? No. Did he have the guts to reinstate me? No. Their middle management, there were people... I read some of the accounts of salaries there. They've got their pour out for $3 million to cover bushfires. Why don't we have a policy that no executive at the ABC gets paid more than the Prime Minister? The difference between that and half their salaries would give you $300.
But that's why I said I think there is an argument to discuss when we talk about it being a public-funded entity. There is an argument to talk about resourcing.
Absolutely.
But I think the discussion kick-started tonight by Cory about what is wrong with the so-called ideology there is problematic because it is what people are saying about this network and it's all so silly and it's so tiresome.
But this network is actually now the market failure broadcaster because it actually speaks to the people.
And it doesn't pretend not to be opinion.
Yeah. We have to make sure as individual media consumers that we don't allow ourselves to be exploited by that tribalism.
I hear you.
Look, I'm all for the more media players we have, the more media jobs, the better funded and accountable ABC. That is better for our democracy. We need all of these platforms and we need quality journalism, but we just need to work on a business model that will allow that to happen.